Hi, good morning. My name is Sheikh Sagir Ali. I am an assistant professor of English literature, Medinipur College, West Bengal, India. Today I will discuss with you the digital divide in regarding classroom teaching. So, see, today schools, colleges and universities are closed across India to confront the pandemic situation. As a consequence, millions of students are keeping away from their classroom situation as a safety measure. So in the present scenario, the system of education has transformed dramatically. Digital learning has become the new norm to overcome the hurdle of classroom teaching. Clear? So, in a precipitous move away from the classroom in several pockets of the world, people are speculating if the espousal of digital learning will continue to prevail in the post-pandemic world, and how such a shift would extract intervention in the global education system to the desired effect. This applies particularly to the Indian teaching learning system. Numerous incidents of suicide and anxiety have been reported from different corners of the country. The concerned students caught up in the precarious side of the digital divide felt excluded from the digital classrooms. Like so many others, they are apprehensive that they may fail in their examinations because of their exclusion from the digital realm of teaching and knowledge. It seems that these underprivileged students are left out in the sudden spree of digitalization with no access to digital infrastructure or capital. Undeniably, digitalization is an indispensable tool these days, and we require a different classroom where class matters, not so much room. The discrimination of digital divide in our days of a new normal under which taking recourse to distance learning is a must. Notes are to be sent by courier, recorded classes and some audio-visual measures are to be managed, and such other things are to be done for boosting the morale of students. Okay? It draws a parallel to the version of online elitist teaching. As the politics of the new technological regime, the contours of this digital divide are erected along a similar registers of those hierarchies whose specters haunt the physicalist spaces of our classrooms. Under the umbrella of everyday deaths, the new normal consequences of precarity finds the discourse of development in which mutual technological mechanism hinges on the entrepreneurial lives amidst the reigning state of crisis. There is one critic named Akhil Gupta. According to Akhil Gupta, the poor in India, unlike Agamben's Homo sacer, are not sought out or ruled out. Rather, they are exterminated despite their centrality and insertion in democratic politics. Poor students' inclusion to the arena of popular digital platform is problematic, as if a precariat is included in the law through its very exclusion. Furthermore, thanatopolitics across the nation creates concealed sovereignty that has not been excavated in past studies. Clear? What I am positing is that we, the all moderns, directly or indirectly, take part in the unceasing inflation of the bourgeois order in a disproportional way. The shape of e-learning nowadays tries to define the matter in terms of supposedly stark opposition between learning and the superficial structure of an archaic and a disparate mechanism. Partho Chatterjee, in his book The Politics of the Governed, speaks about the production of political society by drawing on the references of governments of different countries, especially India, in seeking to shape the very basis they claim to transform populations into citizens. Street traders, fare dodgers, squatters are considered as entities to be controlled. The popular knowledge and practice of politics is a reality of being subject to governmentality as fragmentary and passive politics, not of being citizens. Therefore, the citizens in this share of practice are considered as populations, considered as quote unquote populations. On the other hand, intermediate elites like teachers of schools, colleges, and universities perform the role of mediators between governors and governed. And the Oriental despotism espouses a politics of the governed based on the heterogeneity and density of everyday life. This unrecognized sector and their subsistence rest on the pseudo-class mobilization within the ambit of populist trajectory. It also lingers on the false sense of consumerism and in creating ableist politics by not embracing the disability with an overt political modality. So what is important here is that the supposed platform of learning belongs to modern bourgeois culture, not because poor marginalized students are either modern or bourgeois, but because of something else. The assumption that the discourse called digital learning can fill the quintessential space for producing the highest norms of modern society, which has its genealogy in a profound shift from hermeneutic method to an essentially parasitic pre-given production of an infinite variety of the emergence of digital learning as a modern type of illuminative work with a modern bourgeois learning possible for a new discourse. Am I clear? Now see, summing up, I can say that only one or two lines. Students from poor families studying in schools, colleges and universities are staring at disruption in their studies without access to a mobile phones, internet and laptop or the Zoom apps. The idea of finance and knowledge is of special importance in the situation of a crisis associated with formative or organic instabilities following arrival of a different stage in post-industrial capitalism. Today, we have to contend with phrases like knowledge economy, information society, cognitive capitalism. These allude to the economic conversion commissioned by communication technologies. Cognitive capitalism pays attention to the socio-political measures of capitalism that are structure of agglomeration planted on the disproportionate dispersion of the profit of labor and thus an enslavement. Clear? Thank you very much.